Imagine walking into a store in the early 90s and seeing your favorite soda, but completely clear. Same flavor, no caramel color, and packaged like it came from the future. That was Crystal Pepsi. Pepsi's bold experiment that burned bright, fizzled fast, and somehow became a cult legend decades later. This is the story of Crystal Pepsi. Its hype-filled rise, its spectacular downfall, and the strange afterlife of one of the most famous product flops in history. The early 90s were obsessed with purity, health, and transparency. Water bottles were trendy. Clear products like Ivory soap and Zima beer were marketed as fresh and futuristic, and Pepsi wanted in. Pepsi executive David Novak came up with the idea of a crystal clear cola. The pitch? It would look healthy and modern while still tasting like soda. No caffeine, no caramel coloring, just pure, refreshing Pepsi. By 1992, Pepsi invested millions into launching Crystal Pepsi. The timing was perfect. America was ready for something new, and Pepsi was desperate to beat Coke in the cola wars. When Crystal Pepsi hit shelves in 1992, the hype was unreal. Pepsi rolled out a massive marketing campaign, including a legendary Super Bowl commercial with Van Halen's "Right Now." The message? Crystal Pepsi wasn't just a drink, it was a revolution. The product immediately stood out. The clear look was futuristic, and for a while, sales were strong. In its first year, Crystal Pepsi racked up nearly $500 million in revenue. For a soda experiment, that was huge. Stores couldn't keep it stocked, and people had to try it, at least once. But here's the catch. Trying it once didn't mean buying it again. Despite the hype, Crystal Pepsi had a major issue: the taste. It wasn't quite Pepsi, and it wasn't quite something new. Critics said it tasted flat, slightly citrusy, almost like a mix between Sprite and Pepsi that didn't fully work. Worse, Pepsi's marketing confused people. Was it supposed to be healthier? Was it supposed to taste like regular Pepsi? Even Pepsi execs couldn't clearly explain it. And then Coca-Cola struck back. Coke released Tab Clear, not because they wanted to win, but because they wanted to kill Crystal Pepsi. Tab Clear looked similar but was marketed as a diet soda, which muddied the waters and made consumers even more confused. Pepsi had the hype, but Coke had the strategy, and it worked. By 1994, just 2 years after its big launch, sales of Crystal Pepsi tanked. Stores pulled it from shelves, Pepsi executives pulled the plug, and the clear cola dream was over. What was supposed to be a revolution became a textbook case of marketing gone wrong. Pepsi admitted later that they rushed the idea and didn't test the product enough. David Novak, the executive behind it, even called it the biggest failure of his career. But here's the thing. Failures can still leave a legacy. Even after disappearing from shelves, Crystal Pepsi never really went away in people's minds. Nostalgia gave it a cult following. People remembered the commercials, the hype, and the weirdness of a clear soda that didn't last. In the 2010s, fans started demanding its comeback. So what do you think? Was Crystal Pepsi doomed from the start, or was it just ahead of its time? Let me know in the comments. Crystal Pepsi is one of the best examples of how hype doesn't always equal success. Pepsi thought they had the future of soda in a bottle, but in reality, it was an idea that wasn't tested, wasn't clear in its identity, and wasn't what consumers wanted long-term. But sometimes, failure can be just as powerful as success. Crystal Pepsi may have failed as a drink, but as a story, it became unforgettable. Social media petitions blew up, and Pepsi actually listened. Crystal Pepsi made limited edition comebacks in 2015, 2016, and even 2022 for its 30th anniversary. The relaunches sold out quickly, not because people loved the taste, but because they wanted a sip of nostalgia. Crystal Pepsi had transformed from a failed product into a piece of pop culture history.